Hello, everybody. This is Giancarlo Aulino reporting for Vibe 105 with a sports Vibe Talk segment where we're going to be talking about all things Canadian Premier League and get some insight on what it's like to play on the East Coast in Canada. To help me out today, I'm happy to be joined by my guest, who's an expert in this area, plays for the Halifax Wanderers in the CPL, Matthew Arnone. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So Matthew, as mentioned, you're in the CPL playing for Halifax. You're one of the late additions to the team. You started off training in Italy earlier on, and then you got that call to play for Halifax. Just what was your initial reaction to the CPL, and what were your expectations going into the new Canadian Premier League?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's something that when you grow up, you think about why doesn't Canada have a league? And when I initially got the call, it was something special to be a part of Canadian history and help build the pathway for future players and really something that's been a long time coming for the country and the sport in the country. So it was a no-brainer for me, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Also, when you look at other leagues, like you were training in Italy, everybody knows the style over there. The identity over there is like the Catenaccio style, very defensive. When you look at the Canadian League right now, playing in it for its first season, what would you say the identity of the CPL is right now?
I think it's a high intensity. I think it's something similar. I think the model for some of the teams is, in Canada, it's always been to mimic English soccer, and I think the intensity we've matched. It's quite a high intensity. It's quite a fast-paced game, and there are teams that do play quite good football, similar to that in Spain and places like that, where they're always looking to build out of the back. But I think for the most part, the identity would definitely be the high intensity, high flow, high pace to the game, and sort of initially anyways a battle, especially when you're away from home and these sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's definitely adopted a European-esque style, but some teams have been more true to that than others, the Valors and the Pacifics and the Yorks. But then you have, obviously the Cavalries who have quite a direct style, but still play good football in their own right. And in Halifax, we're quite direct as well. So, it's been a team of many identities, much like the country. I think it's a melting pot of different cultures spilling into soccer. So it's something quite interesting.
And on the East Coast, there's no NHL or NBA team over there. So with that said, how would you say the city of Halifax has responded to having a pro sports team there?
Oh, the welcome's been so warm that I could have never imagined that the fans would be this great. I think, in terms of CPL, we have the best fans in the league. I think in Canada, we're right up there with the MLS teams. Obviously, our atmosphere is a little bit smaller, but I mean, for our first year team, it's definitely looking promising. And obviously, as a team, we just want to repay their faith and their loyalty by obviously having some success in these final games.
And Wanderers grounds over there in Halifax is known as a kitchen where you play all your home games. For those in Halifax or maybe here in the GTA who aren't familiar with what to experience during a Wanderers game, what is the atmosphere like and what can somebody expect if they go to a Wanderers grounds?
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, obviously I haven't partaken in many games as a spectator, but it's super fun to play in, and that atmosphere is obviously created by the fans. They're electric every single game. The seats it's hard to get a ticket, it's hard to get a seat because, it's always sold out and they support us no matter what, rain, shine, cold, it doesn't matter. So it's definitely a blast. I know the fans are, sort of unapologetic about how much they love the Wanderers. They support us unconditionally, and I think it's something to experience for soccer in Canada, for sure.
Yeah, and another aspect of this league that many aren't aware of is a travel for teams like yourself and Pacific out there in Victoria. So after this first season, would you say that the CPL has had a schedule that worked against both yourself and the Pacific FC team?
To be honest with you, if we're speaking as transparent as possible, I think that the travel is obviously the hardest on us based on geographical location. But, the scheduling has been, not the best. I think it's something to improve on. I mean, there was periods of the season where we were playing, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. We played our second half of the fall season in about 2 weeks' time, and then we had 3 weeks off. So, obviously, if you can spread that out, that would obviously be better, not only for the players' bodies and that sort of thing, but also for the entertainment value. The players will be able to perform at a higher level. They'll be able to recover better and obviously be able to perform more consistently, right? And, we've had a lot of injuries, as have most teams, to be honest, because the schedule is so gruesome. And to be honest, it's something that needs to be addressed for sure.
So what do you experience then when you're going from Halifax? Let's say now you're going to be in Calgary, playing against Calgary there at Spruce Meadows. So what have you experienced physically or emotionally during a game?
Well, I mean, first thing, we traveled to Victoria prior to coming to Calgary, so we traveled across 4 time zones. So, players are talking about waking up at 4 in the morning and 5 in the morning because they're on Halifax time still. So obviously the sleep is the major issue, right? And we're playing a match at 7 p.m. versus Pacific, which is really 11 p.m. Halifax time. And obviously that's obviously a big issue. The travel is obviously, we traveled 8 hours and by the time we arrived in Victoria, it was only 1 p.m. So the players were looking to take a nap or sleep. But, obviously we're midday, so we had to fight through it and make it, as best as possible to acclimate to the time change. And then obviously we're on Mountain Time. It's obviously an easier transition from Pacific Time to Mountain Time. But, we played 2 days ago, and we have a game tomorrow. So, one of your recovery days is a travel. It's on an airplane, so it's not really a recovery day, and you do as best as you can. You eat properly, you sleep properly, and you pull up your socks, and you're ready to go again tomorrow.
Yeah, you just brought up there too, just the sleep and all these areas. What's it like on the field for you? Do you feel differently, or is it the same game? Like, how much do these time zones affect you during a game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm being honest, I like to say that I travel pretty well. I'm pretty acclimated. I get acclimated very quickly. I do everything I can, and do all the diligence that I can to be ready for the match. But playing at 7 p.m. in Victoria, you feel exhausted by the second half because you're really playing at 11 p.m., which is something you're not used to, right? And there's obviously all the other factors like flight and jet lag and all these things that are kind of piling on you. But for the first time I felt it in Victoria, you feel exhausted on the field where you're really not used to playing at that time, right? And especially at Wanderers grounds, we played afternoon games. We play evening games we've played a handful of evening games that end at 9 o'clock, but nobody's playing football at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., right? So this is something that obviously cannot be addressed because that's just the way time zones work. But I think something, to do with the scheduling, if we can sort of space out the matches a little bit better, will give players a lot more time to get acclimated. Perhaps teams can travel earlier and et cetera, et cetera. But I definitely think the time zone is definitely the worst on Victoria and Halifax. But I think it's, that being said, it's even for both teams because they'll be coming to us next week and dealing with the same thing.
For those just joining us on Vibe 105, this is Giancarlo Aulino with a Sports Vibe Talk segment with Matthew Arnone of the Halifax Wanderers. Matthew, now you've had a chance to play in different climates, different time zones like you brought up there. What would you say has been the toughest time zone or climate that you've had to deal with this season?
Yeah, I think the most recent game in Victoria, like I just said, going across four hours of time zone difference and trying to get acclimated to that. I woke up after the match and you talk about recovery and rest is super important. And because of the time zone and the time change, I was up at, 5 a.m. after the game. We had gone back to the hotel at 10 p.m. And by the time I had done ice bath and recovery, I was in bed by maybe midnight. And I was wide awake at 5 a.m., which is 9 a.m. Halifax time. So it was something obviously that, obviously the game is done. However, it does affect you going into the next match, right? Which is 3 days later. You're traveling and you need to catch up on your sleep. So it's definitely challenging going out to the West Coast, especially when you're going backwards in time. Fighting through midday, when we arrive, fighting through the middays and not taking a nap because you have to try and get on Pacific time and you only have a few days to do so. So that's definitely super challenging. But like I said, I don't like to make too many excuses. It is challenging for all players, and I think it's something that unfortunately you can't avoid it. So. It's something that all the players have to deal with. And like I said, it's even on all playing fields because Pacific will be back here next week.
Just going to shift gears a little bit here. York 9 are the team that play here on the York University campus, and I've got a chance to see some of the players over here. Their assistant coach, Carmine Isacco, who you're familiar with, coaches the university teams over here. Just the amount of players that have come out of the York program, like yourself, Ryan Telfer, Mark Anthony Kay out there in LAFC. What is it about York's program that they've been able to produce so many Canadian talents so far?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts from the helm, right? And Carm has been there before, and he kind of sets the standard and what's expected of you every single day. And I think one thing that was often preached was you need to not set your standards at the level of your opponent, because obviously in college, the level is not necessarily that of one that would prepare you for a pro level, but you need to set your standards by the players around you. So, training every day with Mark Anthony and Ryan Telfer and Daniel Gogarty and all these guys that ended up obviously playing at the pro level is what made us sharp enough to make the jump. So, Carm brought in good players and surrounded us with good players to succeed, but also gave us the mentality and the philosophy behind what makes a pro a pro. So I think, first and foremost, it goes to him. And then obviously it's just the players that push each other every single day.
Yeah, and you went from being a striker to a midfielder and then a central defender where you play now in the CPL. What was that change in position like for you? Like, was there any learning curve you had to adjust to, or was it just a smooth transition?
To be honest with you, it's, I've played wherever I've played in the middle of the park, like just probably for my entire career. When I was playing at a very low level at grassroots, I started as a midfielder, and then, I was just being a big guy. You always find yourself in the middle of the park. So it was a bit of a transition. I think you need to switch gears mentally and think about, playing safe first rather than when you're an attacker, you're allowed to make those chances and take, make the low risk pass and whatnot. And you need to, as a defender and defensive midfielder, your job is to hold possession and obviously intervene and win the ball from the other team. So, I think it gave me a little bit of an edge having that mentality of a forward and understanding what runs the forwards are going to make and whatnot. But I think ultimately it did have a little bit of a transition. I did find myself in a couple, scenarios in college and university, where I did get exposed. And I think like something that I needed to sharpen up was, being more sound defensively, positionally, and these are sorts of growing pains when you switch positions. But ultimately, Carm and everyone worked with me, the assistant coaches as well worked with me to identify these things, even though perhaps York University won the game 4-0. It was massive. This is one thing that if you want to make it to the next level, this is something you need to shore up, because this is something where they will exploit you, right? Where the level is a bit higher and the mistakes are punished more often. So, yeah, I mean, good credit to them. They helped me tremendously. And, obviously I worked hard myself, but the combination of the two has got me where I am.
And now playing that central defender role where you are right now in Halifax, would you say it's more taxing on your body, or is it a situation where, okay, the striker can only go so far? What are your thoughts on being a central defender in a pro soccer league?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more tactical than it was at the college level. I think it was a lot more based on athleticism at the college level. I think it's a lot more direct. I think it's a lot less thinking. In my opinion, I think it's a lot more rehearsed, the play. And, when you deal with players, with cavalry's players that will be playing against tomorrow, they're number 10s and they're number 9s. They're quite good at reading the game. So you need to be positionally sound. And if you are, you really don't do as much running. So I think it's less taxing for sure. You're kind of the one that kind of sets the line, and you can use that to your advantage. So playing the offside line would be something that you can use to your advantage. And it really is just about reading the game and having a good read on the ball. And obviously the players around you need to be quite aware, and you need to manage a whole back line. So, I've taken that responsibility here in Halifax. I think it's gone pretty well. We've been, in the last 6 or 7 games, we've been pretty stingy on defense. So, to be honest with you, taxing physically, I think any position is taxing physically. But I think if you're smart and you manage yourself well, you see the more experienced defenders in the league play till they're 35, 36, 37 years old, because they do read the game so well.
Once again, for those just joining us on Vibe 105, this is Giancarlo Aulino with a Sports Vibe Talk segment. We're speaking with Matthew Arnone of the Halifax Wanderers. Matthew, you have a charitable foundation that helps a great cause here locally in the community. Can you just give our listeners a better idea of how that started and how can they donate to that cause?
Yeah, so now it'll be 9 years on September 24th. My brother passed away, obviously, in a tragic car accident that left our family pretty traumatized. And, we decided that as a family we wanted to do something positive and make light of obviously such a negative situation. So we started a foundation called Jason's Wish. Basically what it is a dinner dance fundraiser that we host every year. We actually just hosted on September 27th. Obviously I wasn't able to attend because we had a match versus Edmonton in Halifax the day after. So obviously that wasn't ideal for me, but my family did a great job putting on the event. It was a huge success yet again. And it's basically all the proceeds go to Sunnybrook Foundation, to the Trauma Care Center. And basically that's where Jason was taken care of for 2 weeks. He battled obviously with the injuries of the accident and unfortunately didn't make it through. But we decided we wanted to prevent that from happening to another family. And even if we could save one life, we we think it's a huge success. So we're, upwards of $75,000 at this point donated in over the 8 or 9 years, and it's become a real community, I would say, for the attendees, and they're always bringing someone new, and the branches are growing longer and longer and reaching out and touching more people, and the feedback has been amazing, and for us it's such a fulfilling thing to hold on to, not only Jason's memory but to create new memories in his light. So it's something that not only are we giving to a good cause, we're actually fulfilling a large void in our hearts, but with something small like an evening of charity. So if you guys are willing to donate to that, we do accept email transfers to Jay's Wish, JAYZ wish@yahoo.ca. You can email transfer. We do provide tax receipts. We do have a charitable donation number. If you're a business and you would like to donate, you can contact me at Arnone Matthew, ARNONE, Matthew with 2 T's, @gmail.com. And I can definitely, we have a business donation letter that I can provide you with if you're looking to donate in any way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Matthew. Before we wrap up here, how can our listeners follow you on social media?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Arnone Matthew on Instagram, ARNONE, Matthew with 2 T's. And then on Twitter, my name is Arnone Matthew 23, unfortunately, because somebody who is a ghost account on Twitter, took my name and now I can't use it. So it would be Arnone Matthew 23 on both platforms.
Well, Matthew, I'd like to thank you for sharing your time and coming on Vibe 105 to talk CPL with me. And I wish you all the best as you close the inaugural CPL season. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks, awesome.
That was Halifax Wanderers defender Matthew Arnone. Now we're going to send it back to the studio for more programming right here on Vibe 105.
This is Matthew Arnone and you're listening to Vibe 105.
Floated in, away he says, and it's gone straight in, and they are level. And Matthew Arnone in the 15th minute made the late run, and Arnone with the equaliser.
And now back to your Vibe 105.